Going to start the meeting for the Planning Commission Board of Adjustments dated Tuesday, November 14th at 7 o'clock. We will start with a call to order and go with a roll call. So, Lee Brisbane.
Here.
Roger Heath.
Here.
Teddy Zierden. Here. Marcy Weaver. Here. Absent today is Joe Ayers. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll get started with approval of the agenda unless there are any amendments to make. Do we have a motion to approve today's agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
One second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. The next item is approval of the minutes. Please refer to your packets for the October 10th, 2023 regular Planning Commission Board minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Item number 6 is the Council Liaison Report for the November 6th City Council meeting. Please refer to your packet for the meeting notes, and if you have questions, you can address it to anyone on the City Council. Moving on to the first open forum. If anyone is in the audience that would like to approach the podium on a topic that is not currently on the agenda, please do so. State your name, address, and feel free to share. All right, I don't see anyone approaching, so we are going to close the open forum and move on to new business. The first item is a public hearing for a conditional use permit application of C23008 for Patricia K. Lane, a revocable trust located at 9069 Apple Lane. This is Lot 3, Block 1 of Copperwood First Edition, parcel 1015-0537, construction of a 1,600 square foot accessory structure, 15 to 20 feet in height, and it is a zone R2. We are going to open the public hearing, and the first item is for the applicant presentation. So if the applicant could please come to the podium, state your name, address, and begin your presentation.
Chuck Lane, 32485 Timber Lane Road, Breezy Point. I'm applying to, I guess I just want to clarify things because I think at the last meeting, maybe some folks in Weavers Point probably thought that I couldn't build a building if I got shot down, and that's not the case. I'm basically building a structure that's a little higher, and Jerry can kind of explain that more, but I was asking for a 14-foot garage door, so the midpoint is higher. I've reduced that down to a 12-foot. The 40 by 40 does meet the requirement based on the 1.91 acres that I own. So when I sent that letter to everybody, I just wanted to make sure that I think there was some misunderstanding. I just think that there was people here that thought that they could stop this from happening, and obviously I can do a regular 40 by 40 without the 12-foot door, but I'm asking for a 12-foot garage door opening, not a 14. That will bring the building down, and the reason for that is so I can get my boat in. It's just a shorter door. I wouldn't be able to do that. And I guess at the last meeting, I was kind of quite surprised that there were people vocalizing that weren't within the 350 feet of my property. I did not understand that there was a 350 perimeter around my property. I do ask that, anybody who is within 350 feet of my property, I think if they have concerns, it should be discussed. But if someone is a mile away or a half mile away, and because they live in that Weavers Point area, they want to get up and complain and whatnot, I just hope that you folks, consider the folks that are my neighbors on your decision process. And I know it's not always easy, being in your position, but, I just ask that I can do the 40 by 40 with the 12-foot garage door.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Chuckling?
I do believe too that I do believe that in the past, it has been approved to do a secondary structure with a higher midpoint. I think it's Jerry, is it a midpoint line or I always get that confused.
We measure height by the midpoint of the roof.
Midpoint of the roof. So, from my understanding, there has been structures approved in the past. My neighbor, Joe, he's 2 down from me, he's got a secondary structure, on his property. Obviously mine's kind of up on the hill, behind my house where I'm building, so.
So, quick question for you, Jerry. Can I ask you a question? The CUP is anything over 1,280 square feet, correct? It says accessory structure of 1,280, so 1,600, he needs a CUP, so.
A CUP, the CUP that he is applying for
Is for the
here
1,600.
is for 1,600 square feet.
Right.
On a lot that is less than 2 acres.
Right,
And he is applying for a CUP at the same time to have a height between 15 and 20 feet.
but he needs a CUP.
Which is 18.
He doesn't need to needs a CUP for the 1,600.
Both.
Right, that's what I thought, okay.
If it were 1,280
He
or
wouldn't need
less,
it. He wouldn't need
a
it.
CUP.
Right,
If it was 1,280 and a height that's more than 15 feet, he would also need a CUP for that
right,
too.
okay.
Thanks for I didn't know, I thought it was 1,600, but there, I can build a secondary structure, it's just.
Right.
1280 is without the CUP.
Just need a CUP,
Okay, no,
yeah.
thank you, Jerry.
And you're putting LP siding on it, metal roof,
I'm gonna do what the city requires as far as, my neighbor.
Similar, yeah.
My neighbor built and he matched up with his house. I don't know if he did metal, but you can't tell, I mean, it was right
Right.
across the road, so I would match, cause I believe I have to match what, the look of my house, I guess. The color,
so I'm assuming the colors are gonna be kinda
yes. the
neutral?
colors. We're doing white, we're building a white house with black trim,
Okay,
so.
so the shed will be white then also?
White with black. The roof will be black, I mean, it's.
Right.
Yeah. It'll be white.
Right.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
And moving on to staff review, Jerry, can you lead us through that?
Bear with me. Again, this is conditional use permit application 2023-008. The applicant is Patricia K. Lane Revocable Trust. The property address is 9069 Apple Lane. Parcel ID is 101-50537. The legal description is Lot 3, Block 1, Copper Root, First Edition to Breezy Point. The zoning is R2, medium density residential. The applicable code is 153.032. And the conditional use request is to construct a detached accessory structure 40 feet by 40 feet with a height of 18 feet to the midpoint of the roof. Property lot 3, Block 1, Copper Root, First Edition is 81,853 square feet or 1.87 acres. It's located in Copper Root, First Edition. It's in the northwest shore of Pelican Lake in Nelson Bay. The lot is served by municipal sewer and access to the lot and adjacent lots from Apple Lane. It's a private easement. The zoning of the area again is R2. Applicant has applied for building permit to construct dwelling on lot south of Apple Lane. and is proposing a detached accessory structure north of Apple Lane, access to both structures from Apple Lane. Findings. Upon review of a conditional use application, the commission needs to consider the findings as required by section 153.119. In review, the commission shall state whether or not the finding is acceptable towards granting the CUP if applicable. The following findings must be made. The use or the development is an appropriate conditional use in a land use zone. The property is owned R2 and the request is appropriate under section 153.044 and 153.032. The use or the development with conditions conforms to the comprehensive land use plan. The use with conditions was compatible with the existing neighborhood. The use with conditions will not be injurious to the public health, safety, welfare, decency, order, comfort, convenience, appearance, or prosperity of the city. The following must be considered. The conditional use shall not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity. The conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. The conditional use will not create excessive additional requirements at public cost for public facilities. This use does not require any additional public infrastructure. The conditional use will have vehicle approaches on the property which are so designed so as not to create traffic congestion. The proposed use is keeping with the residential character of the neighborhood, creating a normal additional traffic flow. The adequate measures have been taken to provide sufficient off-street parking and loading. The use is in keeping with the residential character of the neighborhood, creating nominal additional parking or loading requirements. Adequate measures have been taken to prevent or control offensive odors, fumes, dust, noise, or vibrations, etc. The conditional use will not result in the destruction, loss, or damage of natural, scenic, or historical features of a major significance. And the conditional use will promote the prevention and control of pollution of the ground and surface waters, including sedimentation and control of nutrients. The proposed use is, again, in keeping with the residential character of the neighborhood. The applicant has filed the appropriate application for the CUP. The applicant has paid the appropriate fee for the application. Public notice of the condition use was published in a legal newspaper, and all property owners within 350 feet were given mailed notice of said hearing. The hearing is held as we speak. Staff has reviewed the site plan, CUP, application, building code compliance. Section 153.032C-3, accessory structure height in excess of 15 to 20 feet in height. The following may be appropriate conditions for approval of the CUP. The applicant shall obtain a building permit for the accessory structure. The applicant shall comply with all setback requirements. Siding and roofing of the principal structure and accessory structure shall be of similar material and colors. All structures shall comply with state building code. The height of the accessory structure shall not exceed 18 feet. And if the commission so chooses, they can add any other conditions. Those are just suggested from staff standpoint. I want to backtrack a little bit. This is the second time we're hearing a similar request. The first time there was some confusion about the size of the lot, and we have identified that that lot is actually under 2 acres, so therefore the maximum size that is allowable with the CUP is 1,600 square feet. That confusion's been taken care of. With that, I'll answer any questions that you might have.
I got one. In the past, we've had requests like this, and we've put in there to put in some kind of trees for a screen.
You certainly can add screening as a condition of approval if you so choose. I think you should be very specific about what type of screening you're going to be requiring.
Right.
If you're talking about trees, you might want to specify the size and the height of the trees that are necessary.
To the peak,
Just try to, if you're going to use those type of conditions, you should be
right,
as specific as possible.
10 feet apart and so forth. I know we've had a few issues in the past on those, so.
In the past, we've had some issues with interpretation of what the commission has actually
Right.
wanted.
Right. I don't know what anybody else thinks about that, but.
I'm just remembering the last time when we talked about it, there was still trees being left. I remember he said that there was, and I'm trying to remember the specifics, but there were trees being provided, so we may want to clarify on that.
There are trees still there. It's obviously fall, so there's no
Yeah.
leaves or anything down
Right.
there, which makes it a little bit more difficult to see. And on this map, the property abuts City of Breezy Point property, and that's just the private road that runs through there.
There it is.
So does anyone have any other conditions that they would want to question or ask Jerry about?
No. That was my only thought. I don't know. So. I know it was,
Madam Chair,
Yep.
you might want to open it up for public discussion also.
All right, let's just review. All right, so are we concluding anyone else for staff review?
Nope.
All right, then we will move on to public input. So if anyone has additional input, please approach the podium, state your name and address, and please share with us.
Hi, my name is Joanne Weaver. I live at 9914 Weavers Point Road. However, we do own property within the 350 feet that Mr. Lane commented on. We fully realize that he has every right to put up an accessory structure. My only hope is that it falls within the parameters of what the ordinance allows. An overly large, overly high building will look very commercial in the middle of a residential area. That's what it is. That's what it has been. And even though the applicant doesn't want to hear from the people on Weaver's Point, that's the only way they have out of Weaver's Point, is to drive past the structure on this road. And so with that, if you have questions for me, I'm happy to try to answer them. Otherwise, that's all I have to say. I do have a question for staff. All the things that were brought up at the last meeting will be factored into the record, right?
There is, yeah, and that's one thing I was going to mention also. There was a number of letters that were submitted. They were noted in the meeting minutes. The commission all had copies of those
Good.
letters. It is considered.
Thank you. And, you know, it's really not my property to talk about, but I do know that Mr. Smith, who's not here, does own, I'm not sure how many feet between the road and Mr. Lane's property. He spoke to that last time, but he's not here now, so. No questions for me, right? Thank you.
No, thank you.
name's Dean Schultz. I own the property right next door, and I don't really have a problem with it. I don't think it's gonna look commercialized for whatever that's worth. But, all right, thanks.
Which,
Sir?
Yeah.
Can we get your name and
Oh, Dean
and
Schultz.
address?
You know, I don't have the address down there yet.
Apple Lane?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Schultz?
Yep.
Thank you.
SCHULTZ.
so you're the next lot to the east?
Yes. That's it.
Thank you. Any additional public input? All right, we're going to close the public input and close the public hearing then and move on to official action for reviewing the conditional use permit. So, we talked, about that buffer, and one interesting thing is that is owned by another individual that had expressed some concern. So, one, I don't think the applicant can touch that piece of property between the road and his property, so that would create that buffer, and there would be some protection there from anyone, clear cutting or doing something to that nature, to that piece of property between the road and the applicant. So do you have concerns? Are there pieces that we would want to bring up the applicant to review?
The screen thing, I can see, I think the rest of the trees, the leaves are off. If you put pines in, of course, you'd have to get it's a 20-foot high, 22-foot high building. It'll take,
Right, and how much
years.
space between that with the hill would you?
you would have to put it between Weaver's Lake, on where that says 44 feet on this plot plan, it's actually 40 feet.
Like that.
Like I said, we've done this a couple times before. And
So you're talking in here.
right, kind of where that wedge is there. But
And what would you think, like a pine tree? Because
A-
it does narrow down too, so,
a pine tree?
well, depending
Yeah, like
on how much space we have.
8-foot
many?
high pine trees, half a dozen of them, I don't know, 10 feet apart.
It may or may not be difficult to do with the existing trees that are there that are not carnivorous. So you might have, we don't want them to cut down the trees that are existing to plant pine
Smaller,
trees.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm just throwing it out there.
well, that's where I was kind of coming to with the specifics, like how many,
Right.
how,
Right.
So that, what is the width of that easement there?
35, does that say?
The distance between it's 30 feet, I believe.
Does that say 30?
I believe it says 30.
okay.
Okay. So that's the center of the road to that line?
That's from the property line. That is not the center of the road, that is from the property line.
To the edge of the road?
Pardon?
To the edge of the road? I think he's wondering where,
Well, I think
What's the dotted
that road
line?
meanders through there, but I can't tell you exactly where the hard surface is. That is 30 feet back from the property line, which is the
Building envelope.
right-of-way line of that private road.
Okay. So the length of this room or something like that, huh?
Yeah, pretty close. That's a normal setback
Right, right.
and we measure everything from property lines, not from the middle of the road.
So what you're getting at is that darker dotted line is the property line. And then beyond that yet is the road.
I think my concern would be if you go put a tree, I mean, I can't see the actual, distance from the property line to the corner of the garage. You go put a pine tree, they're gonna grow. Is there gonna be room to put a tree?
On that corner.
You know what I mean?
So on that corner where it says 44 feet, which is actually 40, that's a 10-foot setback? Is that the way I see that?
That is a setback, the outside lines are the property lines.
Right.
The inside dotted lines are the setback lines, or what we call a
Okay.
building envelope. That building is being located inside the building envelope.
Right.
It's 40 feet from the property line because it's 10-foot setback from those setbacks. And I do have a lot of mature trees in there, just so you know, I would have to cut oaks and stuff down because there are trees in that particular area.
Okay. Seemed like it was a big open area when I walked up there, but. Well,
Does anyone have any other questions or concerns?
I think so.
everything else is pretty cut and dry, I think.
So if we're reviewing this, what it comes down to is we have a conditional use permit for a 1,600 square foot building, which meets the conditional use permit requirements, and the height of the building meets the conditional use permit requirements. If we are reviewing the findings, under the findings, there's A through D of the things that must be met, and just kind of reviewing those quickly. Is it appropriate conditional use? And that is answered by the actual code saying, yes, it is. The use and development conditions conform to the comprehensive land use plan. The use is compatible with the existing neighborhood, and that the conditions would not be injurious to public health, safety, welfare, decency, order, comfort, convenience, and so forth. Does anyone have any concerns that the applicant has not met those 4 required conditions? Okay.
Yeah, so.
So then, any concerns over A through H of the considerations that Jerry had ran through? As you've reviewed those, any concerns or questions with those optional or just things to be considered?
The only thing I say is this F, it says no commercial use of properties proposed as a condition of the CUP, and it really isn't commercial, but it looks commercial.
So by having it matching the home,
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I see what you're,
then it's looking like a garage attaches, or, to the
Right.
property piece.
yeah, okay. You swayed me on that one, Marcy.
Well, until we talk about it. There shouldn't be traffic congestion. Noise, those other ones don't seem, several of them don't seem to apply for a garage storing a boat, so. I don't think there's any concerns, nothing was brought up about pollution, ground surfaces, anything, water runoff of that nature. So considering all of those items, does anyone feel comfortable making a motion at this point?
I would make a motion to approve 1 through 5. And reason being, and some of the reasons that there's a lot of these structures going up. And then, this isn't the first one or the second one. There's quite a bit of them that are going up, and especially if you have a little bit of land that people can store their things in, and that's kind of my thinking.
So we have a motion, do we have a second?
Can we discuss, or do we do that? Do you want to do that after we make a motion?
Typically, once there's a motion, we have to follow through, is that correct?
Oh, there's discussion
You
after the
haven't got a
motion.
second yet.
Yeah.
I will second it. but I'd like to discuss adding to number 5.
Then we should actually have a second motion to add to that. So a new motion to add to that.
First motion needs to,
So we have the first motion. Do we have a second on that?
I seconded it.
Okay. So then that motion is on the table. Do we have, okay, Jerry.
Okay, now you can get into discussion now about the actual motion.
Okay.
I'm suspecting that Mr. Zirden wants to add a condition. And I think he could offer that condition and ask the
To amend the motion.
maker of the motion whether he would accept that as an additional condition with his motion and then go from there.
Okay. So go forward.
Number 5, the height of accessory structure shall not exceed 18 feet. I would add to the midline of the roof to that.
To clarify.
Correct.
Lee, would you care to amend your motion to include on item 5 to midline of the roof for clarification?
Yes, I would amend that to the motion.
All right, so we have a motion, we have amended it to include the text under section 5 to specify that it is 18 feet to the midline of the roof. So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion has carried. All right, moving on to old business. So we have a variance V23005 for James and Susan Sackrider of 32601 Timberlane Point, Lot 31, Trattorcade, parcel 100-30538. Request is to expand a legal non-conforming use dwelling, proposed 8-foot by 32-foot addition to the dwelling. Proposed addition is 24 feet from the OHW, and it is in zone R2.
May I add something?
Yes.
I've had a conversation with the attorney for Mr. Sackrider this afternoon. In lieu of the fact that they're trying to put together some extra materials, and we're bumping against the 60-day rule. The applicant has withdrawn the request with the understanding that they will resubmit a request sometime this summer when the applicant is here. So this is a moot item on this agenda this evening.
Okay, so we can just pass on this one?
Yes.
We don't have to make a motion or anything?
Pardon?
We don't have to motion, or it's just withdrawn and
They
that's
withdrew.
that?
No, he has withdrawn that.
Okay.
We have an understanding.
Okay.
All right, any staff reports?
We have none.
Other than we have a new baby from David, so that's the only staff report that I know
The
of.
city administrator is a proud new dad.
Number 11, any commission member reports? Any updates? All right, then meeting has adjourned. Thank you.